"I need to check my account balance," announced the small girl in a voice that pierced through the pretentious quiet of Sterling Bank's VIP lounge. Robert Mitchell III paused his typing on his sleek laptop and peered over his rimless glasses as though he'd heard the most ridiculous statement of the decade. The 8-year-old stood before the exclusive counter, clutching a clear folder containing papers, while wealthy patrons observed her with a blend of shock and cruel entertainment. Her faded sneakers and plain shirt stood in stark contrast to the designer outfits and luxury accessories that filled the climate-controlled space. "Can you believe this, darling?" Robert muttered to his spouse, Patricia, loud enough for surrounding people to overhear. "The kid thinks she can access services here. She's obviously confused this with an ordinary branch." Muted chuckles rippled through the lobby like a soundtrack designed to amplify the child's embarrassment. Maya Robinson had spent her life being told she didn't deserve entry to establishments like this one, that youngsters like her should understand their station. Yet at this instant, something in her gaze displayed a resolve that defied her tender age. She appeared to carry knowledge far too burdensome for someone so young. Branch Supervisor Mr. Henderson approached with a patronizing expression that failed to touch his expression. "Young lady, this is our premium division. Minors require adult supervision." He waved casually toward the sophisticated clientele. "Perhaps you've wandered off track. The standard branch is down the block." "I haven't lost my way," Maya responded, setting her folder onto the polished counter with a gentleness that contradicted the hostility surrounding her. "My grandmother instructed me to arrive at this specific time, at this particular station." Her tone remained steady. No waterworks appeared, merely an unnerving composure for a child enduring public degradation. Before we continue with this incredible story, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss our content. Now, let's get back to the story. Robert couldn't help himself. He shut his device and moved closer, like a hunter sensing vulnerable prey. "Your grandmother, you say? What's her identity, sweetheart? Perhaps she handles our janitorial services." His remark triggered suppressed amusement among observers. "Or possibly she's employed in the cafeteria at the medical center, where my wife receives her cosmetic procedures," Patricia added, placing her gloved hand over her mouth in mock surprise, while her expression gleamed with malevolence. Will Maya's grandmother's identity shock everyone? Stay tuned to find out what happens next. Maya didn't retreat even slightly. Instead, something barely noticeable shifted in her bearing. Her back straightened, her head raised marginally, and for the first time, a subtle expression touched her features. It was the variety of expression that seasoned individuals would instantly identify as threatening. "Eleanor Robinson," she stated clearly, each syllable dropping like a pebble into still water. "That's my grandmother's identity. And she mentioned that certain individuals here recognize that name quite well." The impact was instantaneous. Mr. Henderson's eyes widened repeatedly, as though attempting to process something incomprehensible. His fingers wavered above the computer keys. Robert lifted an eyebrow, obviously unfamiliar with the name, yet detecting the abrupt shift in energy. "Henderson," Robert summoned impatiently. "Enter that absurd name and let's conclude this farce. I have an investor conference in 20 minutes. Yet while everyone anticipated with malicious satisfaction, nobody observed that the child was examining every expression, every response, as though committing something crucial to memory. Her gaze contained an awareness and forbearance that didn't belong to an 8-year-old. When Mr. Henderson typed the identity into the database, something remarkable occurred. His demeanor transformed entirely. He blinked, typed once more, and his complexion drained of all pigmentation. It appeared as though he'd encountered a specter in the records. There, before all the contemptuous stares, Maya remained perfectly still, as though protecting knowledge too significant to be disclosed before the appropriate moment. Mr. Henderson attempted to conceal his astonished reaction by rapidly minimizing the display, yet his digits trembled faintly as he entered random instructions, attempting to purchase time to absorb what he'd witnessed in the database. Robert, growing irritated with the postponement, drummed his fingers on the marble surface with mounting frustration. "What's the difficulty, Henderson? A basic search shouldn't require this duration," Robert declared, his tone heavy with the confidence of someone habituated to immediate compliance. "Unless you're fabricating justifications for this uncomfortable circumstance." Patricia laughed spitefully, readjusting her pearl jewelry as she regarded Maya as though she were a curiosity in an exhibition. "Sweetheart, perhaps you should contact your grandmother. She's likely concerned, unaware of where you ventured." Her tone dripped with artificial maternal worry. "Young ones have a habit of wandering into environments unsuitable for them." Maya remained motionless, yet something in her gaze shifted. It was as though an ancient recollection had been activated. What did Mr. Henderson discover? The revelation will leave you speechless. Keep watching. Maya remembered precisely the words of her grandmother Eleanor 3 days before her passing. "Child, when you visit the bank, you'll encounter individuals who'll attempt to diminish you. Allow them to speak. Allow them to mock. Because whoever has the final laugh laughs hardest." "My grandmother has passed," Maya said plainly, her voice maintaining that disturbing tranquility. "She departed last week. However, she educated me that certain individuals require instruction through difficult experiences." The statement created a momentary awkward hush. Robert cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable at having ridiculed an orphaned child, yet his arrogance rapidly overcame any hint of human compassion. "Well, I'm sympathetic to your circumstances," he remarked without genuine feeling, "but that doesn't alter the reality that you shouldn't occupy this location. This location serves individuals who genuinely comprehend substantial finance, not for," he gestured vaguely toward her, "childish activities." At that instant, something noteworthy transpired. Maya unsealed her transparent folder with calculated movements and extracted a sealed correspondence aged by time. Centered in refined handwriting read, "To be accessed exclusively in the attendance of the Chief Administrator of Sterling Bank, situated on Madison Boulevard." Mr. Henderson's throat constricted upon viewing the correspondence. Something about the penmanship, about the vintage paper, created unease in his stomach. Eleanor Robinson had been legendary in the city's minority community, a woman who'd constructed a discreet empire while everyone dismissed her, precisely as they were treating her granddaughter at this moment. "What's contained within?" Robert inquired, attempting to seize the correspondence from Maya's grasp. She swiftly withdrew, her responses remarkably prompt for a youngster. "It's not intended for you," she answered, with a resolve that caused Robert to withdraw as though he'd received a strike. "It's designated for the individual who genuinely administers this institution, not someone who merely pretends to." The audacity of her reply made Robert crimson with fury. He wasn't accustomed to being confronted by anyone, particularly not an 8-year-old minority child. Patricia gripped her husband's forearm, recognizing he was about to detonate publicly. "Listen here, you little—" Robert commenced, but was interrupted by the entrance of a presence who entirely altered the situation's dynamics. The regional administrator, Ms. Jennifer Martinez, a refined woman of color in her 50s, approached the assembly with confident strides. Her flawless attire and commanding stance made even Robert instinctively correct his posture in her attendance. The plot thickens. What will happen when the real authority arrives? Don't go anywhere. "Mr. Henderson," she stated, her tone slicing through the tension like a blade, "I received an automated alert from the database regarding a restricted account inquiry. I trust all procedures are being observed correctly." The relief on Henderson's expression was obvious. Finally, someone with genuine authority to address this impossible circumstance. Yet what he didn't anticipate was Maya's response upon observing the administrator. The girl smiled, the first authentic smile since entering the institution. "Jenny," she stated, employing a casual nickname that caused the administrator to halt abruptly. Jennifer Martinez examined the child closely, and gradually acknowledgment emerged in her expression. "Maya Robinson," she whispered, as though witnessing an apparition. "My heavens, you resemble Eleanor when she was young." Robert and Patricia exchanged baffled glances. How did this child personally know the regional administrator? And why did Jennifer seem to be regarding her with a deference they'd never witnessed previously? "Your grandmother informed me of your arrival," Jennifer continued, her tone thick with sentiment. "She stated that when the moment arrived, I would understand precisely what actions to take." Maya extended the aged correspondence to Jennifer, who accepted it with faintly trembling hands. "She mentioned you would comprehend what's written here superior to anyone else." As Jennifer cautiously unsealed the correspondence, Robert attempted to reclaim authority of the circumstance. "Jennifer, surely you're not going to entertain this. This child must be confusing matters, inventing narratives." Jennifer raised her hand, silencing him immediately, something few individuals in Robert's existence had ever accomplished. She rapidly scanned the correspondence's contents, and with each sentence her demeanor changed from curiosity to absolute astonishment. "Henderson," she stated, without removing her gaze from the document, "I require you to arrange the executive conference chamber immediately and contact the legal division." "The executive chamber?" Henderson stammered. "For her?" Jennifer finally glanced upward, her gaze scanning each present face before settling on Robert and Patricia with an intensity that made them instinctively retreat. "Ladies and gentlemen," she stated with frigid formality, "I strongly recommend you reconsider any additional remarks. You have just committed the greatest misjudgment of your existences." Robert attempted to chuckle, but the sound emerged forced and anxious. "Jennifer, with all respect, you're being somewhat theatrical. It's merely a child with certain fantasies." "What's in that letter? The answer will blow your mind. Stay tuned." That's when Maya spoke once more, her tone subdued, yet carrying a gravity that made the atmosphere in the chamber seem denser. "Mr. Robert, have you heard of Robinson Empire Holdings, the commercial real estate network that controls half of this city's office buildings?" Robert blinked, bewildered. Naturally, he knew Robinson Empire Holdings. It was among the most influential and enigmatic corporations in the area. Nobody knew with certainty who operated it, yet its investments shifted millions. "And what does an enterprise like that have in connection with you?" he asked, dismissively, though uncertainty now colored his tone. Maya smiled once more, and this time something almost predatory existed in that smile, an expression that shouldn't exist on an 8-year-old's features. "Everything," she replied simply. "Because, Mr. Robert, the woman you've just been ridiculing and insulting for the previous 15 minutes wasn't merely my grandmother. Eleanor Robinson was the founder and exclusive proprietor of everything the Robinson name represents in this city." The silence that followed was so complete that the air conditioning's hum seemed thunderous. Robert felt blood evacuate his features. Patricia dropped her designer purse on the flooring, and Henderson appeared to experience breathing difficulties. Every contemptuous action, every cruel laughter, every prejudiced statement of the recent minutes began crystallizing in their consciousness as proof of their own monumental foolishness. Yet anyone observing Maya closely would recognize she wasn't surprised by their responses. It was as though she were following a meticulously practiced script, each movement calculated to maximize the impact of what was forthcoming. Jennifer Martinez guided Maya to the executive conference chamber, leaving behind a completely stunned Robert and a Patricia who was frantically whispering on her mobile device, attempting to discover any intelligence about Robinson Empire Holdings. Henderson followed behind like a phantom, still processing the reality that he'd nearly expelled the heir of one of the city's largest commercial empires. "Maya, dear," Jennifer stated, securing the reinforced glass entrance. Your grandmother prepared me for this moment for months. She knew that when you arrived here, it wouldn't simply be to verify your account balance. Her tone carried a mixture of affection and admiration. Eleanor always stated you possessed something exceptional, an intelligence that few would recognize. The girl settled into the leather seat that seemed to engulf her, yet her gaze remained alert and calculating. Grandmother educated me that sometimes individuals require confrontation with truth in a manner they'll never forget, she stated, extracting a compact digital recording device from her case. And she mentioned you would assist me with the legal aspects of all this. The legal battle is about to begin. You won't believe what happens next. Outside the chamber, Robert paced restlessly like a confined predator. His commercial intellect attempted to process the implications of publicly degrading the heir of one of the region's most influential corporations. Patricia, you don't comprehend, he muttered to his spouse. If Robinson Empire Holdings decides to pursue legal action against us or terminate our agreements, calm yourself, darling, she attempted to reassure him, though her own nervousness was apparent. She's merely a child. Surely they'll understand it was a misinterpretation. Robert halted abruptly. Misinterpretation? I labeled her grandmother janitorial staff. I publicly ridiculed a minority child. He ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair. My heavens, if this reaches the media! Meanwhile, inside the chamber, Jennifer accessed a confidential file on her computer. Your grandmother left extremely specific directions on how to proceed when this day arrived, she explained to Maya. She meticulously documented every instance of discrimination she witnessed or experienced at this institution across decades. Every prejudiced remark, every instance of preferential treatment denied, every humiliation disguised as standard procedure. Maya nodded gravely, as though she already possessed this knowledge. She showed me some of the recordings she created, she stated simply. And she educated me how to utilize a mobile device to record without anyone detecting. She discreetly lifted her phone from the table, like I accomplished today with everything that transpired outside. Jennifer smiled with a mixture of pride and amazement. Eleanor raised you exceptionally well. But there's additional information, she continued, accessing a physical folder. Your grandmother wasn't exclusively the proprietor of Robinson Empire Holdings. She was a silent minority shareholder in several other enterprises, including, Jennifer paused dramatically, Mitchell Consulting Group. Maya's gaze illuminated for the first time since entering the institution. So Mr. Robert has been laboring indirectly for my family for years without awareness. Precisely, Jennifer confirmed. And with the modifications to the estate documents we filed last week, you now possess sufficient voting influence to affect significant decisions in his enterprise. Outside, Robert had managed to stabilize slightly and decided his optimal strategy would be charm and diplomacy. I'm entering there to apologize, he announced to Patricia. I'll explain it was a misinterpretation, perhaps offer a contribution to a charitable organization. He adjusted his necktie. Children are simple to impress. A few pleasant words and perhaps an expensive present will rectify this. But when Robert knocked on the conference chamber entrance and entered with his most rehearsed smile, he encountered a scene he hadn't anticipated. Robert's about to face reality. Keep watching to see his world crumble. Maya was seated at the table's head, with Jennifer at her side, and a pile of documents scattered between them. She didn't appear like a lost child being comforted. She appeared like a chief executive in a commercial meeting. Mr. Robert, Maya stated with an icy politeness that didn't match her 8 years. I'm pleased you decided to join us. Miss Jennifer was just explaining to me my position as a shareholder in your enterprise. Robert felt the floor vanish beneath his feet. Shareholder? He repeated, his tone emerging higher than normal. 7% of the common stock. Jennifer confirmed, consulting the documents. Sufficient to request audits, question management decisions, and, in certain circumstances, influence significant changes in the enterprise's leadership. The blood drained completely from Robert's features. 7% didn't seem substantial, but he understood that in companies with a dispersed ownership structure, a well-positioned minority could create enormous disruption. Listen, I'd like to apologize for the earlier misinterpretation. Misinterpretation? Maya interrupted, her tone maintaining the disturbing tranquility. Mr. Robert, you labeled my deceased grandmother janitorial staff, suggested that I was lost, and laughed at my attendance here. She paused. That was not a misinterpretation. It was racism. Robert opened and closed his mouth repeatedly like a fish removed from water. All his experience in conference chambers, all his negotiating abilities simply evaporated in the face of the accusatory serenity of an 8-year-old who clearly wouldn't accept hollow apologies. And the most intriguing aspect, Maya continued, manipulating a digital recorder on the table, is that everything was recorded. Every word, every chuckle, every statement. Her gaze met his with an intensity that made him involuntarily retreat. Grandmother always stated that individuals reveal their genuine character when they believe there will be no consequences. Jennifer leaned forward. Mr. Mitchell, would you like to hear some of your statements from today? I'm certain they'll be extremely interesting to your enterprise's board, your investors, and perhaps some media outlets specializing in corporate behavior. It was at that instant that Robert realized he wasn't dealing with a traumatized child who could be easily appeased. He was confronting someone who had been trained, prepared, and equipped for this precise moment. Every action Maya had taken since entering the institution had been calculated to expose exactly the variety of person he was. And worst of all, he'd fallen into the trap perfectly, providing all the evidence necessary for his own destruction. The trap has been sprung, but there's more to come. Don't miss what happens next. The chamber entrance opened once more, and this time a gentleman in an impeccable suit carrying a leather case entered. Apologies for the delay, he stated, addressing Maya directly. I'm David Richardson, the Robinson family's attorney. I arrived as soon as I received the communication from Miss Jennifer. Robert observed in horror as the pieces fell into position. There was nothing spontaneous about this meeting. Maya hadn't merely appeared at the institution for an innocent consultation. She had orchestrated the entire circumstance with military precision, utilizing her own appearance as a vulnerable child as a weapon to expose exactly the variety of person he was. And worst of all, he'd fallen into the trap perfectly, providing all the evidence necessary for his own destruction. The trap has been sprung, but there's more to come. Don't miss what happens next. David Richardson unsealed his leather case and extracted a stack of printed documents, methodically spreading them on the conference table. Mr. Mitchell, David commenced with the clinical precision of someone who'd been preparing for this moment for months. Would you like to review some of your public statements from today? I possess the complete transcript here, courtesy of the digital recording Miss Maya created. That's illegal, Robert stammered, his commercial composure finally crumbling. You cannot record private conversations without consent. Jennifer smiled coldly. Mr. Mitchell, this is a public commercial establishment. There's no legal expectation of privacy here. She paused to give weight to her words. And considering that your statements constitute clear and documented racial discrimination, we possess not only the right, but the legal obligation to preserve this evidence. David consulted the transcript. Let's proceed to your own words. The kid thinks she can access services here. She's obviously confused this with an ordinary branch. Then, your grandmother, you say? Perhaps she handles our janitorial services. And my personal favorite, or possibly she's employed in the cafeteria at the medical center, where my wife receives her cosmetic procedures. Each quoted sentence made Robert shrink further in his seat, as though the words were physical strikes. "Mr. Robert," Maya stated, rising from her seat, "after carefully reviewing the terms of the existing agreements and consulting with my legal advisors, I've decided to exercise the termination clause for justifiable cause that was included in all signed contracts." This will destroy me financially," Robert whispered, his hands trembling. "You should have considered that before deciding my skin color determined my worth," Maya replied simply. "Mr. Robert, you've had 8 years to learn that children deserve respect. You've had decades to learn that individuals shouldn't be judged by skin color. How many additional second chances do you need to become a decent person?" What a powerful lesson. But wait, there's one final message from Maya. As Maya prepared to exit the chamber, she paused at the entrance and turned around one final time, not for gloating, not for additional cruelty, but for a concluding lesson that would echo eternally in the memory of those who had underestimated her. "You desired to educate me about my place," she stated, with a wisdom that transcended her 8 years. "Mission accomplished. My place is exactly where my grandmother always stated it would be, at the summit, constructing a superior world for other children who will someday walk into locations like this and be judged not by their skin color, but by their character's content." The entrance closed behind her with a gentle sound, leaving behind 2 individuals who finally comprehended that they'd just witnessed not only their own destruction, but the emergence of a force of justice they would never be able to understand or control. David Richardson remained behind to finalize the legal documentation. "The termination of contracts will be effective immediately," he informed Robert and Patricia. "Additionally, documentation of today's incidents will be filed with the appropriate authorities and professional organizations." Patricia, who had remained mostly silent, finally spoke through tears. "Please, she's just a child. Surely this can be resolved differently." Jennifer responded firmly. "Mrs. Mitchell, civility is a concept that should have been applied before, not after being confronted with consequences. Your husband had numerous opportunities to treat a child with basic human decency. He chose otherwise." As Maya departed the institution with Jennifer and David, Henderson approached her hesitantly. "Miss Robinson, I want to apologize for my role in what transpired today." Maya regarded him thoughtfully. "Mr. Henderson, unlike Mr. Robert, you appeared uncomfortable with the situation. That's why you'll retain your position here. But I suggest you utilize this experience to ensure no other child ever experiences what I did today." Henderson nodded, relief visible on his features. "I promise you, things will change here." Outside the institution, Jennifer placed a gentle hand on Maya's shoulder. "Your grandmother would be extremely proud of you today." Maya gazed up at the towering building. "Grandmother always stated that genuine strength isn't about revenge, it's about creating change. Mr. Robert lost his contracts not because I'm vindictive, but because his behavior demonstrated he's unfit to represent our family's values." David smiled. "You know, Maya, your grandmother spent 50 years constructing this empire while facing discrimination like you experienced today. She never sought revenge, just justice. And today you honored her legacy perfectly." Maya nodded, clutching the transparent folder that had started this entire journey. Inside were not just legal documents, but her grandmother's lifetime of experiences, documented so that future generations would understand the cost of prejudice. The legacy continues. What an incredible story. But wait, there's one final message from Maya. 3 months later, Sterling Bank's VIP lounge appeared different. New training programs on cultural sensitivity had been implemented. Diverse hiring practices were established. And most significantly, a new policy stated that every client, regardless of age or appearance, would be treated with equal dignity and respect. Maya returned to the institution on a Saturday morning, this time wearing a professional outfit that Jennifer had helped her select. But she wasn't alone. Beside her walked 3 other children from her grandmother's community programs, children who'd never imagined they could enter such an establishment. Mr. Henderson greeted them personally at the entrance, his demeanor completely transformed from their first encounter. "Miss Robinson, welcome back, and welcome to your friends. We're honored to have you here." Jennifer emerged from her office, smiling warmly. "Maya, I have something to show you." She guided the group to a newly installed plaque near the entrance. It read, "The Eleanor Robinson Memorial Initiative, dedicated to ensuring financial services are accessible to all, regardless of background or appearance." Maya's eyes glistened as she read her grandmother's name. "This is perfect." One of the children with Maya, a shy 10-year-old named Marcus, whispered nervously, "Are you sure we belong here?" Maya smiled and took his hand. "Marcus, we belong anywhere we choose to be. Never let anyone convince you otherwise." As they walked through the institution, former skeptical clients observed them with new respect. Some even nodded politely. The transformation wasn't complete. Genuine change never occurs overnight, but it had undeniably begun. Robert Mitchell's enterprise had declared bankruptcy 2 months prior. Patricia had filed for separation. The consequences of that single day of prejudice had rippled through their entire existence. But Maya wasn't celebrating their downfall. Instead, she was focused on the future, on the scholarship program she was establishing in her grandmother's name, on the mentorship initiative that would help young minority entrepreneurs access capital, on the systematic changes that would prevent other children from experiencing what she had endured. As Jennifer observed Maya interacting with the other children, explaining financial concepts with patience and clarity, she understood that Eleanor Robinson's genuine legacy wasn't the empire she'd constructed. It was the granddaughter she'd raised to transform that empire into a force for genuine justice. If you enjoyed this powerful story of courage, justice, and transformation, please like this video and subscribe to our channel, Black Voices YTD, for more incredible stories. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss our inspiring content. Thank you for watching.